I guess it's just human nature, but for the last several years, people have actively dug and collected long-lost artifacts in a quest to bring them to the surface. And most of the time, archaeologists can pull up some of the most magnificent finds ever that would shed light on how life was before technology took over. In case you want to see some of the most intriguing discoveries to date, keep watching and prepare to be amazed. First up is the Rosetta Stone. Most might say it's just a stone, but this seemingly unassuming object is dubbed as one of the most important discoveries ever made. A lot of people would visit the British Museum just to see this piece. The funny thing is, a lot of records reveal that the stone was discovered by accident by soldiers in the Napoleonic Army in July of 1799. In the stone, writings were engraved, and after further analysis, it was determined that it was a decree about King Ptolemy V of Epiphanes. What made it so valuable is the fact that the decree was written 3 times, first in hieroglyphics, then demonic, and lastly in ancient Greek. This is why a lot of experts agree that the stone holds such importance to Egyptology. This is because nobody knew how to interpret ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics when they were found. Luckily, people could still read ancient Greek, and since the inscriptions were identical in all 3 scripts, the Rosetta Stone became a tool to decipher hieroglyphics. Speaking of stones, this next artifact was literally stuck in a rock. The London hammer was accidentally found by husband and wife Max and Emma during their usual stroll. Intrigued by what they saw, the couple decided to bring the anomaly home and subsequently used a hammer and chisel to open it. Ironically, what they discovered inside resembled a vintage hammer, and to their surprise, it was a very important artifact in history. A group of archaeologists examined it and found that the rock housing the hammer was dated to the Ordovician, which is more than 400 million years old. There are some doubts about that dating, but here's the shocking part. Early measurements revealed that the hammer itself was more than 500 million years old. It appeared to be so old that a portion of the handle had started to turn to coal. Of course, creationists were all over this, and in the 1980s, creationist Carl Baugh grabbed hold of the idea and even used it as the foundation for his theory of how the atmosphere on pre-flood Earth would have favored the emergence of giants. Speaking of old, this next artifact is said to be 30,000 years old. Yep, you heard that right. Venus of Willendorf was considered an icon during the Ice Age. The 4-inch tall figurine is devoid of feet and facial characteristics, but it has clearly defined breasts, buttocks, a tummy, and vaginal lips. Her head is covered in braids or perhaps a knit cap, and there are color flecks that indicate the tan limestone relic was previously red. It was discovered by archaeologists in 1908. There were numerous further digs during the 1900s and 2000s, using constantly better techniques. Because of this, over 200 comparable statuettes from sites dating back from 23,000 to 40,000 years ago have been discovered throughout Europe. Researchers suggested that these figurines may have been used as fertility symbols, self-portraits, or erotic objects, but it is unclear why Ice Age people sculpted them. Moving to another icon, the discovery of King Tut's funeral mass marks a milestone for archaeology. In 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter found King Tut's nearly intact tomb in the Valley of the Kings. This discovery brought the mass back into the public eye. Most Egyptian royal tombs have been looted throughout history by both ancient and modern robbers. Therefore, Tut's burial chamber was the first to show the incredible wealth the pharaohs stole from their graves. The mass weighs 24 pounds and was placed on top of King Tut's tomb as a symbol of wealth and power. A lot of ornaments also adorn this piece. From lapis lazuli, turquoise, and other semi-precious stones that sparkle, the mass is designed to fit a king. The deities Vulture and Cobra, who jointly represented the unity of Lower and Upper Egypt, are depicted on the forehead and sprout a tube-shaped beard on the chin. Another amazing find from Egypt tells us that our ancestors might have tried flying way back during their time. And if this is true, then the Wright brothers might not be the first people who invented the machine equipped to conquer the sky. What I'm referring to is the SAQQARA bird. The artifact lacks any carvings to represent a punitive bird's feathers. It might be a toy, a ritual instrument, or a weather vane used to signal the wind's direction on holy boats. No one knows. Kali Messiah, a professor of artistic anatomy at the University of Helwan, was the first to have a new perspective. He appeared to perceive in the odd bird a scale model of a glider, albeit one without a tail. And ever since the artifact has been referred to as the SAQQARA glider, or plane of the pharaoh, whether accurately or inaccurately. The Egyptian Ministry of Culture assembled a commission to solve the mystery in the 1970s, and the specialists all agreed on the piece's originality, saying it wasn't just a toy but rather a model that would be useful for aerodynamics. Another tech-related discovery is the Baghdad battery. This contraption consists of a 5.5-inch high clay pot with a copper cylinder that is secured by asphalt, and after further investigation, archaeologists discovered a rusted iron rod within the cylinder. Wilhelm Koenig, a German who served as the National Museum of Iraq's director, proposed that these might be galvanic cells that were possibly used to electroplate gold onto silver artifacts around 1940. Nobody has been able to disprove them, especially considering that an electric charge might be generated by just filling the device with an acidic or alkaline liquid. Even if it had been able to function, the Baghdad battery wouldn't have been very effective as a battery. In actuality, the majority of archaeologists think the device was merely a storage container and not a battery. But still, it doesn't erase the fact that somewhere in ancient Egypt, people attempted to invent a battery. And that's awesome if you ask me. If you do agree, make sure to subscribe to Magma Storm. Next up is the Dead Sea Scrolls. Would you believe that one of the most important archaeological finds of the 20th century was made as a result of what started as a goat hunt? A Bedouin shepherd named Muhammad Edib went in search of a lost goat in 1947. Along the jagged rocks bordering the Dead Sea, Edib found the first of approximately 1,000 scrawled manuscripts written between 300 BC and 200 AD in a small cave. Although these copies most likely precede the creation of the Bible, some 230 of the scrolls contain stories from the Hebrew Bible, or the Old Testament of Christianity. The remaining ones include additional religious literature, including hymns, regulations, and prayers. Amazingly, the archive contains ancient Paleo-Hebrew, multiple dialects of Aramaic, Greek, Roman, and Arabic, in addition to the majority of the writings being in Hebrew. Researchers have discovered many additional scrolls over time in 12 caves close to the original trove, and a few over farther off locations, and thankfully several scrolls did not deteriorate due to the salty desert environment. Nonetheless, the majority decayed, making up a corpus of more than 25,000 pieces of papyrus and parchment. Fragments have been painstakingly put together by coordinating handwritings and materials, much like a jigsaw puzzle with countless missing pieces. Since many scrolls are made of animal skins, DNA sequencing may be useful in the future. Amazing, isn't it? Another great artifact is the Piri-Reis map. The finding of this writing on a gazelle skin in 1929 is nothing short of remarkable. After careful examination and investigation, historians discovered that the map was created in 1513 by the well-known Turkish admiral Piri-Reis. Europe and North Africa, the coast of Brazil, several islands, including the mythical island of Antilla and the Azores, Japan, and even Antarctica, which was believed to have been discovered more than 300 years later, were all found on the map. The most perplexing aspect is not that it demonstrates the need to reevaluate chronology for a lot of exploratory finds, but rather that it vividly and accurately characterizes Antarctica's terrain, even though the last time that happened was more than 6,000 years ago. How is a continent that has been covered in ice for the past 6,000 years mapped by a Turkish commander from half a millennium ago? We don't really know. The discovery of the OLMEC colossal heads never fails to amaze those who were able to see it in person. The OLMEC civilization, sometimes called the mother culture of Mesoamerica, emerged from the swampy woodlands of the Mexican Gulf Coast between 400 and 1400 BC. After more than 2,000 years in AD, 1862, a farmer excavating the same area ran across this massive stone head. It was the first of 17 such heads that have not yet been found but are believed to be portraits of the Olmec kings. Each of the enormous statues weighs more than an elephant's weight and ranges in height from 5 to 10 feet. They depict stern males with flat noses, swollen lips, and almond-shaped eyes. The theory that the carved boulders represent confident leaders is supported by the fact that each head sprouts a distinctive countenance, expression, and headgear. Later on, archaeologists found most of the heads at the former capital of the San Lorenzo and La Vinta, some 60 miles from the basalt source. Although undoubtedly time-consuming, it still needs to be discovered how the Olmec moved these enormous boulders, which were then decorated and placed on display in important plazas. Speaking of bizarre, the discovery of the city, the Nan Madol, also made a lot of people think. It was believed that the Nan Madol was built between 200 and 200 BC on a coral reef close to Micronesia. It was made up of roughly 100 man-made islands connected by viaducts and constructed from enormous basalt rocks. Because of this, it's surely a mesmerizing sight to see. Not to mention how 250 million tons of offshore basalt in the middle of nowhere feel out of place. How are these massive blocks mined, moved, and placed into the ideal location? That's a question that even modern engineering standards cannot answer. Furthermore, the motivation for its creation is still a mystery. Last but not least, we have the SACSAYHUAMAN walls. These incredible walls first captivated the Spanish conquistadors when they were discovered close to the city of Cusco. They were astonished to learn how these people, whom they believed to be illiterate and lacking in the capacity for logical reason, could have constructed such miracles. Even scientists were not able to replicate the wall, despite how hard they tried to build one using the same method. These are 3 concentric walls with an average height and length of 6 meters and 360 meters, respectively, constructed with 300-ton-plus limestone pieces. No mortar or other type of cement was used to join the walls. Instead, they were carved and put so closely together that not even a sharp knife could fit between 2 blocks. Well, that's it for today. Make sure to like and subscribe to Magma Storm for more videos. See you soon.